Hello everybody, I'm glad you're with us today. We're going to make a video of some West Park history for those of you who may not know a lot about West Park history. First of all, I want to tell you my name's Ross Bassett. I've been in love with West Park history my entire life. I was one of the founders of the West Park Historical Society back in 2005, and I'm still with the Historical Society. With me today, I got Cameron Droz, who's a junior at St. Ignatius High School, and he's going to be doing some filming. But let's get started. But we're going to start right here in the very beginning. When West Park was founded, we were part of Rockport Township. We were a small little portion of Rockport Township, but the first person to arrive in West Park was Nathan Alger, and Nathan Alger's grave is right below me. He was our original founder. He arrived in 1812, and he had his family with him and a few other folks. Unfortunately, just within 6 months, he passed away, and he's buried here, the first one in Alger Cemetery, which has over 6,000 graves. One of the interesting things about his gravestone is it says on the bottom of it, "My friends, I'm here, the first that's come, and in this place for you there's room." And sure enough, almost 200 or a little over 200 years later, we have over 6,000 people here. One other thing I'll mention just very quickly, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of the things we're going to look at today, but there is a history book which you can find from the local historical society or find it online. And it's the history of Rockport Township, or some of Rockport Township, and specifically West Park. But this book will tell you all the multiple facts and details that I don't have the time to tell you today. Thank you. Our next segment of today's video is a tour of the four corners of West Park. Been a lot of confusion over the years of exactly what the boundaries are, so I'm going to show you now. Okay, here we are down at Memorial Field in West Park. A lot of people don't realize that this is part of Cleveland. It is part of West Park. Memorial Field was dedicated back in the late 30s, I believe. But right after the end of World War II, it was not uncommon to have 30,000 or more people be down here for Memorial Day celebrations. It was a very popular location. If you look behind me, all the way down to where the ford crosses, all the way down to that tree line where the river is, that is the boundary line of the West Park and the city of Cleveland. When we're looking at the boundaries of West Park, which is the purpose we're here right now, people always forget what West Park boundaries are. This is one of the boundaries. And if you look at the river, pretty much everything this side of the river is part of West Park, including we have two golf courses in West Park. We got Big Met and we got Mastic Woods. A lot of people don't even realize that when you're golfing there, you're golfing in Cleveland, you're golfing in the community of West Park. Okay everyone, now we're at the extreme northeast corner of West Park. Where are we at? 117th and Brea Road. People don't realize how far West Park goes. So if you go down Brea Road, everything on the south side of Brea Road is West Park. That way is 117th. Everything on the west side of 117th is West Park. So here at 117th and Brea Road, I'm standing pretty much on the corner of West Park. Okay, I've been showing you the corners of West Park. This is another corner. We are in the extreme southeast corner of Brook Park. Where are we at? We're at Chevrolet Boulevard and Brook Park Road. I am standing in front of the trailer park, on Brook Park Road, which is the corner of West Park. The Chevrolet plant is right across from me. Most of you know and have seen that plant. Well, everything on this side of Brook Park Road is part of West Park. West Park is a big area, and if you're all the way down at Chevrolet Boulevard and Brook Park in front of the trailer park, you're in West Park. Thank you. Okay, here we are in the southwest corner of Old West Park Township. Across the street from me is Cleveland Hopkins Airport. It was founded in 1925, and Brook Park Road is in front of it. On the other side of me is Grayton Road. So we're right here in the corner. I'm also in the parking lot of the Aviator Restaurant. which is in this extreme southwest corner. On the other side of the Aviator restaurant is what used to be NASA, and NASA was in River Edge Township. NASA is gone, and now that township has become part of Fairview Park. So that completes our tour of the four corners of West Park. Hey everybody, we're over here at Cam's Corners now. Now back when Nathan Alger settled this neighborhood, and he settled on this southeast corner of Cam's Corners. I didn't point that out, but his house was kind of halfway between where I'm standing now and Alger Cemetery, both on the southeast corner of Cam's Corners. So now we have two streets that cross here. We have what used to be Riverside Drive and is now called Rocky River Drive, and we have Lorraine Road. Those were the two main streets, and back when Nathan Alger arrived, they were only as wide enough for a cart, maybe 10 or 15 foot wide, if that, because no one lived here. There was just people passing through. So both of them are Indian trails. Lorraine Road, which runs into Triscuit, which follows a ridge, was an Indian trail, and it was an easy place to cross the valley over here where you go down the hill into the metro parks and go up the other side. That was an easy crossing, so the Indians favored it. And Rocky River Drive was an easy way to go. It kind of followed the valley, but it didn't follow right the ridge of the valley. It was over this way a bit because there were several ravines that fed the valley. So the Indians weren't dumb. They stayed away from the ravines and they could go straight north and south on Rocky River Drive. So that's a little bit about how this major intersection got its start. Two buildings I want to point out. One is the Cam's General Store and Post Office, which is right across from us. It's a wonderful old historic building, and it's been here 120 some years, and it'll be here forever, I hope. It was built in 1900, and it was a major part of the community. It was a speakeasy for a while, it was a bar for a while, it was a restaurant for a while, and unfortunately, as we stand here today, in April of 2024, it's closed, but we sure hope somebody moves into there fairly quickly. It's already been restored once, and we don't ever want to lose that building. The other building I'm going to talk about is directly behind me, which is the bank building. That bank building is awesome. It was built in 1920, and it was for Central National Bank, I believe, but Cleveland Trust bought it fairly quickly, and then that changed into Ameritrust and Key Bank. But it's filled with doctors' offices and other facilities, and it's made of Indian limestone, as are the 5 or 6 buildings just to the right of it that were also built at that time. And I've often been asked why Indiana limestone instead of Berea sandstone. That's a mystery that I'll never know the answer to, probably. It's just a little bit of history of the Cam's Corners here. Thank you. Hello everybody, now we're over at St. Joseph Academy. Why did I come here? There's a whole lot of interesting buildings in West Park, but truly two of the most magnificent buildings in West Park are the St. Joseph Academy buildings. I know in 1909, back around that time was when they first started graduating people, and they actually started out of the building to my left before they built the building behind me to graduate students from. And the building behind me is magnificent, and as you can see, it sits right on the edge of the Rocky River Valley. What a beautiful environment. Well, they built the first building across from us, then they built this building, and there's a tunnel underneath, which a lot of people don't know. I've actually had the privilege to be in that tunnel. But the interesting thing is, from what I'm understanding is, and I'm not an expert on St. Joseph Academy, but I think a lot of the classes are back in the original building again. So it's kind of interesting how this place is developed. But the architecture is absolutely amazing. What beautiful buildings they have right here in West Park. Okay, now we're at the bookend of Cam's Corners, the 117th and Lorraine Road area. You have a large commercial district down there at Lorraine and Rocky River Drive. You have another equally large commercial district right here at 117th Street. Now our borderline's just a couple blocks over, but even past that borderline was the old Lyric Theater and several other businesses going down to what used to be the Sears store, which is long since gone. But right now, I'm standing right in front of the historic Variety Theater. Built in 1927, one of the larger theater houses on all of the west side. Has a whole lot of history to it. At one time they had an orchestra, they had movies, they had boxing matches later on. It's been here forever, and it has a lot of history too, and right now they're trying their best to restore the building, which is a challenge. They've restored the marquee, but they got more that they have to do. We really hope and pray that this wonderful old building can be saved. Okay, now we're at Jefferson Park. I always found this park to be very unique. Not only is it our oldest park, it's one of our largest park, and there's a little story behind it. At one time, the city of Cleveland owned all the land on this corner, and they were talking about putting a cemetery here. And people didn't want that, and then they checked the land, and it really didn't qualify for a cemetery. So then they thought, well, what else can they do to it? So here it is, around 1912, the city of Cleveland decides to put a park in the middle of another city, West Park. Well, why'd they do that? Well, major cities back in those days, that was a common thing for them to do. So I just find it very unique that dating back all the way over 100 years, that this park was here and originally was owned by the city of Cleveland. And then when we merged with the Cleveland, obviously it was still part of the Cleveland. So it goes probably half a mile that way, and right in the center of that tree area that you're looking at right now, my mom, when she was a little girl in the late 1930s, early 1940s, the firemen would flood the field and it would be an ice skating rink for all the kids. So if these, not walls could talk, but if this park could talk, the stories they'd tell. Okay, here we are on West 138th Street at the home of John West. Believe it was built around 1846. Again, that book I showed you in the beginning will have all the exact dates if I'm off by a year or two. I'm getting older now and not as much stays up there. But around 1846, John West arrived from Ireland and he built his home. He built it right here on 138th, and it's hard to believe that to this day it still survives. It's a wonderful old brick house. It's our oldest home in all of the West Park area, and it is still in very good shape. So we talk about West Park. Well, West Park, how did they get their name? They got it from John West. John West, in the front of this house, which did face Lorraine Road, had a very large pond and lake. And people would come here and they'd go in their paddle boats and they'd go to the West Park and they'd go in the paddle boats and have a grand old time. And that's how West Park got its name, from John West. And here's his home. And we're so lucky here in West Park that it still survives. Okay, well, we don't have the time to cover every area of West Park. I will cover this area, which is called the land between the tracks. There's railroad tracks right over here, and there's the railroad tracks right down by Brook Park. If both those underpasses flooded, you didn't get out of here because there was no getting in and out. I remember living here for a short time, and I remember that happening. But now we're standing in front of God's Acres, which is probably the second oldest graveyard in West Park. Very significant. I haven't researched it as much as I'd like to, but we hope to do that one next. But it's another one of those places in West Park that a lot of people sometimes drive by every day without even realizing that it's there. So again, this was the third commercial area. They had restaurants and bars and all kinds of notable places in the land between the tracks on West 130th Street, which originally was called Settlement Road. Okay, here we are at Grayton and Puritas. No visit to West Park history would be complete without visiting our most historic site of all. That is the home of where Puritas Springs Amusement Park used to be. We had this marker put in, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Right where I'm standing is pretty much where the entrance to the amusement park was. It went back that way quite a bit. There's apartments, buildings over here. It went that way. Across the street was all parking for it. It started out with a trolley car that came down here and turned around right on this corner behind me. The earliest park here with a dance hall and the beginning of rides was the late 1800s. There was times they had over 35,000 people here for 4th of July events. Everybody who was anybody who grew up in the 50s and, well, not so much the 60s, but the 40s and 50s would remember going to Pearl Springs Park. I can remember going there as a young kid. So what happened to Pearl Springs Park? Well, economies changed, and Labor Day 1958 was the last year it was ever open, the last day it was ever open. The following year on 5/9/59, somebody set fire, or there was some kind of fire, and most of it burned. So Pearl Springs Park became a part of our history. Now, one thing I will tell you, that it's private property. It's owned by the apartment building, but behind them there's a ravine. And in that ravine, my grandson, who's doing the filming right now in camera, his name's Cameron, and I have been in that ravine, and we have pictures standing in the middle of what was called the Cyclone roller coaster. The Cyclone roller coaster was magnificent. It was known throughout the land, and why it was known, because they took advantage of the terrain, and they went right down into the ravine and came back out, which you didn't have roller coasters doing way back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. It was dangerous. People got hurt on them. We believe one person died on it, but the Cyclone roller coaster lives on in the memories of a lot of people. Thank you. Okay, now we're in downtown West Park, or at least what was downtown West Park up until January of 1924. The building we're in front of is West Park number 1. That is the fire station for the city. This part of the building was built in 1917 and dates all the way back to West Park. Right next to us is the library, which was built just a couple years later. And on this side was City Hall, which was demolished, and they built more fire station. But being down here in downtown West Park, this is at Lorraine and Triscuit. And this is some of the old buildings that date all the way back to 100 years ago. Now we're going to go down the street just a little bit. Okay, here we are, what I consider the most historic building of all of West Park. West Park Masonic Temple now, but for many years it was the Sherman House. And it was built in 1867 by William VI. And the second floor had a ballroom on it. And it also was a hotel where they had rooms for people to stay. On the first floor, they had a saloon. And on this side was where the William VI family lived. Now, in the early years, there was no front porch. It was a center hall colonial. Well, when they created their temple on the second floor, those stairs had to be eliminated. So that's when they added the second porch, or the front porch, which makes it look a little bit different. But it's a wonderful old building. Again, all the way back to 1867, might be the most historic building between Cleveland and, I don't know, Lorraine or Elyria. But we're applied to the Ohio Historical Society to get a marker in front of it, a historical marker. Hopefully that will come shortly, but we never know for sure. But behind us, not too far, is the old John Marshall High School that was built in 1899. Across the street used to be the Lorraine Street House, long before the YMCA was there. But this is historic downtown West Park at the corner of Triscuit and Lorraine. Okay, we're on the second floor porch right in front of the Sherman House, and we're just going to point out a couple views from this area. So behind me, down the road a few blocks, that brick building that you see standing up kind of high, it's amazing that it was built back in 1899, and it was the original, it was Central High School, and then it was the original John Marshall High School. That building's been restored and still exists today, so we're really happy that that succeeds, or lasts. Now we're at the other end of the porch that's on the front of the Sherman House, and we're looking west on Lorraine. And what you see there is the fire station that we visited just a few moments ago, and some of the other old buildings, couple retail buildings just past the fire station, and between the two of those is the West Park Library that's been there for a real long time. Well, that completes our video for today. I want to thank my grandson, Cameron Droz, for all the work he did on it. Again, my name is Ross Bassett. I am the historian for the West Park Historical Society. And because we couldn't go into a lot of detail, if you really love West Park history, I encourage all of you to go out and buy the book, From Rockport to West Park. West Park Historical Society has it for sale. And that completes our video. Thank you very much.